Social studies, a subject that you study every single year. But have you ever asked yourself, what is social studies? And when we think about that question, we also have to ask, what is a social scientist? Or the person that studies social studies? Let's dig deeper. When you are studying social studies, you really have to have a 4-hat thinking approach. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do each of these hats represent? Your first hat is for the historian. When you are thinking like a historian, you think of questions like, how was life in the past different from life today? How do we know about the past? Why did something in the past happen? And what happened when? Next up is your geographer hat. When you're thinking like a geographer, you think, what does this map show us? How does geography shape people's lives? Why do people move from place to place? And how do people use the resources of the earth? The next hat is for the government and civics thinker. These type of social scientists think often about what kind of rules or laws do we need? Who is a good citizen? How do people work together? And what is government? And last but certainly not least is our economist hat. These are social scientists that study the economy and how money affects our world. They might ask questions like, how do people get goods and services? How does scarcity affect decision? How do people earn income? And why do we have trade? Let's take a look at this person. Alexander Hamilton was the nation's first Secretary of Treasury. He helped create our banking system in the United States. If you had to give him a hat, what hat do you think he would wear? You guessed it. The economist hat. He helped our banking system, thinking constantly about money, trade, and how the economy affects our world. The next person is Amelia Earhart. She was the first female pilot to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She loved to explore new territories. If we had to place a hat on her head, which one do you think it would be? Ah, right, the geographer hat. Looking at maps, exploring new lands and seas, and really being open to how the world looks and how we can explore it. Our next person, he looks familiar. Barack Obama, who was the 44th President of the United States of America. He worked hard to make our government strong, and he wanted laws to be fair for all people. If we had to place a hat on his head, which one would we choose? You guessed it, the civics or government hat. He worked hard to make our government strong. And last, we have Linda Colley. She is a professor at Princeton University in New Jersey, and she runs the history department. She even wrote several books about British history, and she teaches others all over the world. What hat do you think she deserves? I agree, the historian hat. She thinks about how the past can impact our future. Now, when you do your own creative thinking in social studies, remember these 4-hat thinking approaches. Think like a historian. Think like a geographer. Think like someone who thinks about government and civics. And don't forget to think like an economist. Enjoy, and be creative, and think deep.